Hey family, just want to talk on a personal note about one of the great difficulties that I find in my life. I have families, three families basically, split up around the world. My family in the UK, we have Fritzie's family, which is my family too, of course, now in Germany, and then Tanzania. And it's very hard to have your heart in so many places. And you build these relationships in life where you rely on them for certain stabilities, certain comforts. And one such relationship, which is very powerful in my life, is that which is with my dog, Johniki. And she obviously is still in Tanzania. And she's got Roger with her, which I'm grateful for because he's very loving with dogs. Fritzy jokes that I have a mini me because Roger's lived with me since 2013. And he's very, very loving. Dogs are his life, and I love that. He was a Maasai security, but I saw him giving a dog a hug one day, and I was like, let's get you in the animal rescue, I think. Definitely the best place. And of course, Roger now is married to one of the single mums from the special needs village called Pamela. So there's really a proper family around Feather's Tail. You know, like, that's a long time that I've called Roger a little brother. You know, very long time, nearly 8 years. And to see him fall in love with someone at it's just, there's so many connections to family and a genuine type of family if we're all not biological. And I have these relationships, and I deeply miss Tanzania. And not only the relationships that support me, but the ones that I find my identity in. You know, there are children who have played a huge role in my life, and I'm so distant from them at the moment, and it breaks my heart every day of my life that it's like that. It breaks my heart that I was sick and that distance occurred, but I'm just so distant in many ways, and yet they are always on my mind. And it's very, very hard to live that way. And this week I sat back in prayer after I received some child report forms. Every 2 weeks the team are sending reports to me on updates on children, the development, things like this. And there's a little boy called George who has cerebral palsy. And George came into our care when I was sick. And I didn't get a chance to bond with him, etc. But he had no name. He had been abandoned, sadly, and thus he had no name. So the team gave him my name. Now, there's a few little St. Julians in Tanzania, and it's just a cultural thing of respect. There's no one saying that you should do it. I've never said anyone should do it. Some of the children have taken my name because they wanted to, because they were calling me Dad. And this boy, who I don't really have a bond with, has my name. So I get this report form, and he is this little George St. Julian. And I know, I mean, I've spent time with him, and he's this sweet little, beautiful, innocent, vulnerable package of beauty, this child. And I sit back after I read it, and I just thought, you know, sorry, somebody disturbed me. So I read this form, and I sat back, and I began contemplating and thinking about little George. And I was thinking about him all the way over there on his own, and laid in his cot. It was evening, so he'll have been in bed. I think he shares a cot. We have these big cots. I think he shares one. But either way, I thought about him, laid there, maybe asleep, maybe about to fall asleep. And I do that often. I wonder about the children, what they're doing. And there's so many of them. I've got so many people to love. So many dogs to love. Although a great many of my original pack have all left these days. I've also got so many to miss. so many children to miss as well, actually. And I only allow those times infrequently where I imagine what children like George are doing right now, or the other boys, the children that I was much closer to, my dogs. And the reason I only allow a certain amount of time to do that, as I do with the rest of my family, is I don't like the feelings that it conjures inside me. It's good for me to be reminded that they're there, that I miss them, that I want to be with them, that I love them. But it's not good to be reminded that I'm separated somehow, because I find the feeling of separation, for all a very real thing, a tad illusory at the same time. Because I think if you can just come back and put yourself in God, then you know that whatever love that you can give them, God can give them too. And you just then hope that they can be clear enough that they can have that love. You just hope. You just hope that they can find their center too and feel that love. Because I find being dependent on the presence of others is just too difficult for me as a man. And thus I must be dependent on the presence of God. And I use those brief times to remind myself, yeah, of course, I love these children, I miss them. But you can easily spiral into a bottomless pit of grief when you do, if you don't check it. And by checking it, the only way I can check it is to come back and say, okay, God, you only give me as much as I can handle. I miss them, I love them, but I trust you're going to keep them safe and comforted and loved. And I think that's all I wanted to share, really, is that part of my relationship with God in this very difficult circumstance that my life has wound up in, where I once over felt that being as detached as possible from everything in the world was the goal to find God. And then when I got to Tanzania, I realized that getting attached to people and to dogs as much as possible was also a really great place to find God. The two journeys are just the same. You can be a Buddha and detach under a tree if you want. Find your stillness, find God. Be monastic. You can go and build a family and love the life out of them with all you've got. And you'll find God there too. I miss you all. God bless, guys. Bye.
And do you remember when you looked in the water and saw your reflection, the embers? They drew out a map and they showed you direction. Your sender is far in the east, where your heart is at peace when you enter. My love is just a reminder, find your center. My love is just a reminder, find your center. My love is just a reminder. My love is just a reminder, find your center. Yeah. Well, help me recall that first morning, sunlight at dawn, and cracks on the floor, well, it served as a warning. Everything's changing, I'll rearrange it. So familiar, so amazing. Hopped in the car, drove through the mountains, cows in the street, prayer beat you a counting. There was the river, eternal giver, flowing forever. Remember, find your center. My love is just a reminder, find your center. My love is just a reminder. My love is just a reminder, find your center. My love is just a reminder. Your way, colors start to fade. Take a look within, find your offering. Hold it to the sun, let your spirit run. Remember, find your center. My love is just a reminder, find your center. My love is just a reminder. My love is just a reminder, find your center. My love is just a reminder.